Hello everyone, this is Ron from High Tech Legion, and this is part of our review of the In Win GT1 mid-tower case. And this is a part where we do our installation, and we'll take individual components and put it inside the In Win GT1. I usually start with the power supply, and as you can see there that it has ventilation holes facing the bottom. There's also a dust filter there. So the logical thing to do is take your power supply that has the ventilation fan and face it downwards. Now some people have been asking, can I mount it upwards? Yes, you can. But with that, when you're doing this, it basically has a separate chamber, so it's drawing cool air from the bottom and exhaust at the back. If you mount it with a fan on top, it will be drawing hot air from inside and exhausting at the back. So if you it is much more optimal if your power supply is drawing in cool air from the bottom rather than warm air from inside. And as you can see there, I can secure it here at the back with screws. There is a rail here that kind of holds it in place. And my power supply is 160 millimeters long. This is the In Win 700 watt Desert Fox Commander 3 power supply. But if you have a longer power supply, such as a 1000 watt power supply or a larger capacity power supply that is longer, you will not be able to mount an optional 120 millimeter fan here on the front. That's of course optional only. If you want to help with the cooling, you can install a fan in that area. And also you can see that there is a cutout here, a very prominent cutout, so you can just place your cables there and route it to the back if you like later on. And the next step is of course to put in our motherboard. And for standard ATX motherboard, you can see that there is no need for a standoff since it already has been punched into the tooled into the motherboard tray itself of the In Win GT1. So all you need to do is take the screws from the accessory pack. If I can remember where I place it, there you go. Let's grab our screws here. Thankfully the accessory pack is clearly labeled. I like that compared to other cases, which can be confusing when you're handling multiple items. So these are the screws that you're going to use. These long barrel type looking screws, these are the standoffs, which you will use if you have a micro ATX motherboard, since you need to mount standoffs in these other holes. But for standard ATX, such as the one we're doing, we don't need that. So we only need the screws themselves. So I'm going to grab my motherboard now, install it inside, and show you the next step. Alright, I have installed my motherboard, and also I've installed a heatsink in here. Now generally I would use a high-end heatsink just to test it out in terms of height. In this case, I'm just trying to see if I can cultivate a side panel. There's a typical position, essentially push-pull configuration, and you can see that with this 150 millimeter cooler, it is already reaching that air right there. The extruded side is actually only covering the bottom part of the heatsink, so it's not really helping in terms of giving more clearance for large heatsinks. Here's the Fantex DC14PE. That I would typically use here, but it can only fit up to a certain height. As you can see there, this is the this is the Cooler Master Hyper 212 Evo. Same height, of course, as 212 Plus. See here that it measures from the tip. I'm going to measure from the base of the motherboard here. Just add 15 millimeters, and at the top I get 160 millimeters. So right there, and I would have hoped that you could fit slightly larger coolers, but that's not really, and I wouldn't really hold it too much because it is, after all, still for the price range. You're probably not going to be putting high-end components, exactly, or enthusiast level components in a case like the GT1 for the price point. Although that would have been a nice feature to have. Next step, I'm going to try to put in a video card here, and also I'm going to try to manage the cables. I haven't plugged them in yet, and let's see how well the GT1 does that. You can install up to 220 millimeter fans at the top. They don't use screws, just basically have these latches, and you just press down your 120 millimeter fan. Like maybe a bit snug in the beginning. So be careful. These are plastic, so you don't want to forcefully just push it down because it will get damaged if you do that. Let's just do that first, and then just kind of push it down the other side. It's very, very tight. There you go. And when pushing, make sure that it is not being blocked. There you go. And now it's held in place. What you do is, of course, plug it in, and you can add another one here at the top as well. Alright, I have done some little bit of cable management here, and now I'm going to show you how to install a video card inside. Unfortunately, as you can see there, I have my 8-pin connector here, because there is no hole in the top to route it. Well, there is one, but it's quite small. I was only able to fit the front panel audio. Well, anyway, let me just put that out of the way first and show you here the rear. Before you can install a video card, you have to remove the panel holding it in place. You will use a screwdriver to do that. Just basically screw it there, and then there is another screw holding it right there, as you can see. So that's 2 screws. You have to remove essentially a plate of a sheet before you can uninstall it. And there you go. You can rather begin your installation. And this plate, let's see here. You can just take it out. Oh, there you go. It already came off. That's a plate. And nothing is holding these covers in place except that plate. So you're free to. These are actually, I thought they were reusable. Only the top part is reusable. Everything else you essentially have to punch it out. So this one, to punch that out. It's understandable since it is a budget case, although I would have preferred if it wasn't, if all the rear PCIe are removable. See there? We've freed up some room for our video card. Alright, with the rear panel removed, we can put in our video card. If you're going to install a video card that is as long as the HD6990, essentially the longest video card currently available. 7990, I believe, and GTX 590, GTX 690 are not longer than this one. Let's grab my ruler here just to show you just how long this thing is. It's about a foot long. There. It is definitely a foot long, and as you can see, it will not fit with that hard drive cage there. So there is actually a screw there. I've already removed it, and you can knock down, or not knock down, but slide out. There you go, just pull it towards you and pull out that panel. You don't need to remove the entire cover there. I thought earlier there were 2 screws there that you can actually remove it, but you can just remove the panel there, and you can install your HD6990. You see plenty of clearance there. Once you have your video card in place, you can take the screw and hold it in place. Of course, you have to align that mounting first. Fortunately, it's not toolless. Usual cases these days use thumb screws, so that there's no tool of installation. But because of the PCIe slot being flush with the rear there, it's not extruded. You have to use the plate locking design. We've seen this in previous cases before, but see there? And then you can just leave that alone if you just apply the screw, but you can cover it back again if you don't want dust to enter that. Take the screws again. Just longer process compared to just screwing one, using thumb screws and just screwing one screw in place. There you go. Be fine. Actually, I've screwed it wrong because I wasn't paying attention. That there is actually, let me just remove that again. There's actually a latch there. It's a little hook. There's a matching hole, and you have to align that in place first. There we go. So you can actually hold in place there. A much more secure lock than what I did earlier. There you go. So you just screw it in place, and your card's going to stay there. And that's pretty much it. And what we should now is, of course, continue on with our installation. Next is the hard drive and optical drive. So install a 3.5-inch hard drive inside the In Win GT1. Take the toolless caddy. Notice there are already pins on each corner, and basically you just align your hard drive. Make sure the connectors are facing away from the handle, and just align the pins with the side mounting holes, and slightly kind of curve it until it locks into place. You see there? Very easy. And basically just slide it in again. Make sure you align it properly there. There you go. If you want to install an SSD drive, take the same caddy there, and you see there are holes at the bottom for 2.5-inch mounting. Take the accessory bag. It says ODD, FDD, 2.5-inch hard drive screws, and screw it in place. Make sure, once again, to have the SATA connector at the other end. So when you push it in, you can access it through the behind the right side panel and attach your SATA connectors. Just a quick tip when you're installing 90-degree SATA cables. There will be a clearance issue if you have an SSD located directly below a 3.5-inch drive. Because as you can see there, if you have especially you don't have an angled SATA power cable, well, you have an angled connector, it could see there that there is a bit of clearance issue with that, but it's still manageable. It's just a tip that you should place, if it allows, either place the 2.5-inch drive on top so that there is a little bit more clearance, or kind of space them apart from each other. Installing a 5.25-inch or optical device into the In Win GT1 is very easy. Just take the driveway cover out, just pinch it on each side, and before you move forward, there is actually a plate covering it. Depending on when you install, you might have to remove the top one as well, and just similar to the PCIe cover, you have to remove it first. You have to knock it out. See there? Force it in, and put back the top cover first. We don't need. We're going to install here at the bottom anyway. Take out your tool-free device. Just move it to the off position. Slide in your optical device, and you are good to go. Of course, you have to align the holes first here on the front. And actually, my cable is blocking the way. As you can see there, I have the cable routing device there. So, as a clearance issue, I have to install it onto a different drive bay where I don't have anything blocking it. Here on top. There you go, perfectly fine. And once it's aligned, just lock it in place. Of course, put back the cover we don't need. Put back the cover we need, rather. And you're good to go. For half length devices are just fan controllers. The lock itself only locks on one side, so you have to use the screws from the accessory package to screw them in place, because half-length devices will not be able to be secured properly with this tool-free device, as it locked from the front and the back. And that is pretty much it. I'm going to finish wiring my system now and show you what how the cable management was like, and hear my final thoughts. I almost completely forgot to add one part of this case. Of course, this is the most unique aspect of it. You have this, I don't even know what to call it. These are, of course, appear to be cosmetic rings, or hexagon, however you want to call it. Just open the pack there, and provide a whole bunch. I thought earlier in my overview that this would actually fit on the top. Obviously, the label says there is compatible with the honeycomb mesh here for the front. It actually doesn't fit at the top. So you just basically put these in however pattern you want. It doesn't really serve a function other than, of course, aesthetics. Maybe form a pattern. however you want it. Of course, it's completely up to you. Or you can just not put it at all. Actually, I like the plain white part because with having the red accent here, you have the blue LED and the red blue LED for the power and red LED in the rear. It's kind of three colors already. I would have preferred if they have the LED here as a red to kind of give it a more uniform look. Red LED in the rear fan, red LED on the front panel, and of course the red color here in the front. Well, either way, that's just it. These hexagon parts are completely up to you, however you want to install them. Alright, so this is what it looks like here on the left side with the left side panel removed. This was the largest heatsink I could put in, air heatsink, the tallest rather, any 5 millimeters taller, and it wouldn't close because it was basically hitting the air right here because of the extruded part starts from down here, so it wasn't possible. This is the best cable management I could do in 15 minutes. I had the 8-pin power. I had to route it in the back. I couldn't route it in the back because there was no hole. The only upside is the fact that it was easy to kind of remove the top panel and have it access that top. You can just slide it out like that, and plenty of room here to move my hand, as you can see. And from here I could plug in an 8-pin, no problem. I could plug in that front panel audio, no problem, even with the heatsink installed. So that is good. And let me just put that in. But I would have still preferred a mounting hole, or rather a routing hole here in the rear, just so there's no cable dangling out. Plus, as you can see that it's not very tall because the 120 millimeter fan has no space. It's immediately right there. I can't even route the cable behind that because I won't be able to close the door if I do. I generally, in some cases that don't have a routing cable in the back, I just route it behind, rather right beside the fan around it. But in this case, since it's quite slim, so I can't put that cable down there. So it has to rest somewhere there. It would have been better if it was a bit cleaner. Other than that, I mean, everything else is clean. Plenty of options here on the side, and because there's no cable here for the hard drive, all the cables are on to the other side. So we'll take a look at that and then finish our installation. Alright, this is what it looks like here on the right side panel behind the motherboard tray. There is very little space in here, so you cannot put any cables here at all. There is a gap here, but there isn't room to route your 8-pin cable. That's why I routed it at the front. And the only thing I could route here was the front panel audio, and that took quite a bit of effort. Luckily, you can actually just easily slide out the top. So you can easily access from the top and pull your cable or attach your 8-pin cable and your front panel audio from there. But that's a good thing to have, especially if you don't have a fan blocking that way. Plus, even if you install the fan there, it can easily be uninstalled because of the way it is mounted. It's not using screws. Anyway, here, a very cool mounting option here with the bead type cable ties that they provided. The only issue with this one, as you saw when I was installing it, was that it was blocking this third slot. If I slid an optical drive in here, it would actually block it from being installed. But same thing with this one on top, it will block the topmost part if you install this bead type cable tie there at the top as well. But here in the bottom, no problems when you put it down there. It's a very, very good locking mechanism. Keeps it in place. I don't even know why they have holes in here they have loops, because I don't see anyone routing any kind of cable back there. Just a little bit of room here. I just decided to route my cables in here. Still plenty of room to put in behind here on the motherboard area, but in here there's definitely no room to install that. So I'm going to put back my panel now, and because of the panel having an extrusion even 1 centimeter here on the side, that would have given, you could probably put in the 8-pin here, but there's no, if there was a hole, you could probably put you could run the 8-pin there and still be able to close the panel, but unfortunately there's no hole there. So even if the extrusion helps with the cable management, it will only help with the cables in this case, in this area. So just put that in. Although I can see that since I have fresh cables here from the In Win Commander, they haven't been flexed yet, so this will apply. I will have to apply some pressure here to install it in place. Just give that a little push down there so it gets used to the angle. This is a very new cable, and pop in or slide in my cover, and good to go. You see, it really is that SATA cable giving me problems, but other than that, here you go, pretty snug. You just need to lock that with thumb screws, and we'll look at the LED and also listen at the fan noise. You have the silent and the turbo mode of the fan, so we'll listen to that.